welcome back. Welcome to my car, Millie the Mazda. Shooting this video in my car because it feels a little bit more intimate, a little bit more private, which seems a bit funny for something that I'm putting on the internet, but feels like a good fit for the kind of chat that I want to have today. As you can tell from the title, we're in the section of real talk, and today I want to open up the conversation about mental health. As some of you already know who know me in person, I have been open at times about my experiences with anxiety primarily, but also with depression. And I've experienced both of those on this spectrum from like really mild, hardly affects me, to really severe and actually influences my day-to-day way of life and how I can interact with the world. And they're two topics that I think, and I don't know whether you agree with me, are becoming less and less stigmatized, with more awareness around general mental health, which I think is so wonderful. And I think we really need to keep up the conversations around mental health. I think it's so vital because it does really affect so many of us. And even one conversation can really save and change a life. So I really implore you to talk to your friends, to talk to your doctor, to seek a psychologist, which luckily in Australia we can get some Medicare subsidised sessions. And I'll pop some links of information available in the description box below as well. I've written some notes today to help me remember what I want to talk about. But something that you may not already know is that I am experiencing and living through and recovering from an eating disorder. And I feel like there's still a lot of shame around eating disorders. There's not enough awareness. There's so many misconceptions about what they are and what they're not, and what they look like and how people experience them. But I just would like to remind you that the things that I'm going to talk about are from my lived experience, and that I am just one person. I'm not everyone. I really am working hard to educate myself about different populations of people who experience eating disorders, because from my knowledge, they affect everyone. And they're not just this stereotypical white, middle class, thin person. And I know that I fit that stereotype. And so I find that there is this sense of responsibility personally to step into the light, I guess, and really acknowledge that it's not just people who look like me. Every single age, race, gender, sexuality, ethnicity is affected by eating disorders. And there isn't just the one eating disorder. Anorexia, while it gets the most light, is definitely not the eating disorder that affects the greatest population of people experiencing an eating disorder. So I think that that is really important to acknowledge in remembering that eating disorders do not have one look. Let me say it again. Eating disorders do not have one look. And I'll bet that if you just thought about an eating disorder, you would probably picture that emaciated, white, middle-class girl. But that's not the whole picture. And I think that we can really miss so much when we do subscribe to that idea or ideal. Now, some of the reason that I haven't really wanted to talk about my eating disorder is because I hold a lot of shame about it, but also because I don't want to contribute to the stereotype. Now, because my particular eating disorder does typically get diagnosed when you meet certain criteria. I think that there's this misconception that it's based in vanity, but really it's so much more than that. And for me, my eating disorder is so much about self-worth and the value that I see myself holding in the world. And I'm not saying this so that people can flood me with telling me how valuable I am and, you know, what I contribute and what I'm worth, because I hear those things, but it's an inside job. It's something that I don't necessarily believe. It's something that I am really working on at that baseline level to help with that eating disorder, which really for me is just a symptom of something that's so much greater than food and weight and body. They all are an element and a way that things play out, but they aren't actually the be-all and the end-all of this eating disorder. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is just my stepping back from yoga teaching at the moment. Yoga, really unfortunately, is also one of those places where we see that thin, white ideal, and I don't want to contribute that. You can do yoga at any size. You can do yoga at any age, any ethnicity, any gender. Yoga does not discriminate. And so I won't be teaching at the moment. I won't be putting videos up online of me in a small body, a suppressed body, a weight suppressed body. But down the track, when I am physically in a more well space, it is definitely something that I look forward to offering again, because I really do believe in the healing powers of yoga, in the nourishment of yoga, in the connection of yoga.
It's also worth noting, the global health crisis deeply impacted the way we as yoga teachers are to show up, the volume we are to show up, and the capacity we each have to show up. It was beyond my bandwidth, and I was not able to make the necessary adaptations because of my mental health and dwindling physical health.
And I think it's really important that I name this eating disorder, not label it, but that I bring it out into the open that I do have an eating disorder, and that the way that I have the body that I have is not a healthy one. It's not something to aspire to. It's not something to ask for advice on or to look to create for yourself. It's really not. This is a sick body, and I'm working on making it healthier, but this is definitely not something to aspire to or to admire or to wish upon for yourself. We humans exist at all sizes, naturally, genetically, and I will definitely be talking a bit about that some more in the future. So, keeping things shortish and sweetish. In summary, I just want this to be the start of the conversation. A conversation about mental health, a conversation about health at every size, a conversation about body diversity, about true well-being, about intuition and connection with yourself. I want to reiterate that I am one person's experience, and I am just one person. And you might experience the same things, but feel them in a completely different way. Validate your own experience, please. I also really want to acknowledge my privilege in being able to get the care, for it to be accessible, for me to have never had any health professional turn me away or invalidate my experience. And I know that that is an experience for so many people. And I am so sorry right from my heart that that happens. I also really do want to talk about my privilege in the future, And I'm only going to do that when I've got some more knowledge. I've got some things that I want to read. I'm going to listen. I'm going to research. And then we will talk, real talk, about privilege. Something that is very, very, very important to me is that this community is a safe space for people who are experiencing disordered eating right along that spectrum to a diagnosed eating disorder. And so I really ask, and I will be monitoring and deleting anything that does violate these boundaries. Please do not mention any numbers, weight, calories, distances, no specifics, no diet talk, nothing derogatory about any body type, about any level of activity. Nothing discriminative is welcome here. This is my space on the internet that I want to make a safe space for people to come, to connect, to be a part of something. And so anything that violates those bounds is just going to be deleted. It's not welcome. Last of all, please be kind. This is such a challenging thing to go through. Sharing with such vulnerability is hard. And if you have any questions, if this has brought anything up for you, speak about it. You can comment, you can email, you can talk to your best friend, to your parents, to your neighbor, to your doctor, to your psychologist. If you or anyone that you love is struggling with body, with food, with body image, know that there is so much help available. Know that you are not alone, and reach out for support. I'll include some links in the description box. And thank you for being here, for helping to be a part of this safe space. Take good care. Bye now.
It's all much more complex and nuanced than can be shown in a first 13-minute video. Not only is the eating disorder linked to self-worth and the value one holds in the world, but for me, and I know many others, it can be this way of symptom management. The anxiety and depression can be dampened with this false sense of being in control, this feeling of safety that comes with growing smaller, with taking up less space in a world that is so often asking us to shrink ourselves. Help is available.